Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into the world, really the intellect, of someone who, well, as of June 18th, 2025, commands a staggering $21.7 billion net worth.
That's Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, exactly. Now, for most of us, I mean, that kind of number immediately screams money, right?
It's hard to ignore, yeah.
It's a figure that sort of defines conventional success. But here's where it gets really fascinating, because while the billions are, certainly a headline-grabbing thing,
They're not the whole story.
not even close. Exactly. They're not the story we're here to unpack. Instead, those billions are, well, they're kind of a symptom, maybe. A symptom of something far more profound. Peter Thiel's radical, almost alchemical way of thinking.
His 0 to 1 mindset, that's what we're digging into.
Precisely.
Because this isn't just about the financial figures, though. Like you said, they're undeniably impressive.
Can't argue with 21 billion.
Right. But what we're truly dissecting today is the underlying philosophy, the thing that has time and again allowed him to see beyond the obvious.
To build where others just copy.
Exactly. And to invest in ideas that, frankly, to the rest of the world might initially seem utterly insane.
That's putting it mildly sometimes.
It's this unique mental framework, this 0 to 1 approach, that has made him this almost mythical figure in Silicon Valley and, way beyond.
And what's truly compelling, I think, is how this very specific, incredibly disciplined way of approaching innovation and investment, too.
Yeah.
It isn't just some quirk of a highly successful guy.
No, it's active. It's shaping things now.
It's a mindset that is, quite literally, sparking the next wave of technological revolutions and shaping the future as we speak. So we're going to deep dive into exactly how he applies this mindset, maybe where it came from, those foundational experiences.
And importantly, what lessons, you, our listener, can actually take from it.
Right. How to navigate this world that's just, well, increasingly driven by unprecedented change.
Sounds good.
So let's set the foundation. Peter Thiel isn't your garden variety billionaire who just happens to be in the right place at the right time, with a good idea.
No, he's not chasing trends. Not at all.
He builds them. He doesn't just adapt to these huge shifts in tech, economy, power. He often creates them.
Leaving others scrambling to catch up, that's a recurring theme.
Totally. And back in 2014, he put out this book. It wasn't just another startup guide, was it?
No, 0 to 1. Notes on startups or how to build the future. It was, like you said, a manifesto.
A genuine manifesto.
Oh.
And it sent ripples, maybe even a few tremors, through the conventional wisdom of Silicon Valley.
Oh, definitely tremors. Because its core challenge was audacious. Almost heretical, really, especially in a business world that's obsessed with market share and competitive advantage and, tweaking things slightly.
Incremental improvements.
Right. Thiel didn't just suggest, he demanded that entrepreneurs stop competing.
Stop competing.
Yeah. His message was starkly clear. Your ultimate goal isn't to be slightly better than the next guy in an already crowded market.
Which is what most businesses aim for.
Well, pretty much. He said, no, the goal is to create something entirely new, something unprecedented, something that makes existing competition just irrelevant.
Because you're the only one playing that game.
Exactly. You're literally the only one in the game. This was a radical departure from the whole Silicon Valley ethos of disrupting existing markets. He was proposing creating new ones entirely.
And if you look around now, 2025, that mindset hasn't just endured, it's absolutely flourished. It's solidified his position as one of the most influential investors maybe ever.
You see his fingerprints everywhere.
You really do. From those foundational investments in giants like Facebook and Palantir companies that totally defined their eras, to his current pretty fearless forays into brand new frontiers.
Cutting edge stuff. AI, biotech.
Yeah, we're talking cutting edge AI, groundbreaking biotech, even critical defense technologies that are literally reshaping national power.
His bets are never about following the crowd. Never.
They're about predicting and then building the future. So our mission in this deep dive, let's lay it out. Meticulously break down the radical thinking that fuels this empire.
And understand how this 0 to 1 strategy, how it continues to shake the very foundations of tech, power, and money as we know them.
Let's do it. All right, let's unpack this core philosophy then. 0 to 1.
The heart of it all.
At the very heart of Peter Thiel's approach is this central idea. True innovation doesn't happen when you go from one to many.
Okay, what does one to many mean in his terms?
Well, one to many is basically replicating something that already exists. Maybe making it a bit better, sure.
Like globalization. Taking a successful thing and scaling it.
Exactly like globalization, taking a product, scaling it worldwide. That's one-to-many. For Thiel, genuine progress, the kind that truly changes the world and creates lasting value.
That's the 0 to 1 step.
That's when you go from 0 to 1. And this isn't just, semantics. It's a fundamental paradigm shift.
That distinction is absolutely critical. And it's where I think many businesses fundamentally misunderstand what innovation really is.
How so?
Well, most businesses, most new products are what Thiel would call one to many. They're about taking an existing idea, making it slightly better, maybe making more of it, distributing it wider.
Like another social media app.
Exactly. Or a faster search engine. Or a slightly more efficient delivery service. These are all improvements, iterations. It's horizontal progress.
Going from version 1.0 to 1.1.
Precisely. Going from 0 to 1, though, that means conjuring something entirely new out of, well, nothing.
Creating a category.
Creating a category, a product, a service that has never existed before. It's not about designing a better horse-drawn carriage. It's about inventing the automobile.
That leap. Vertical progress.
Vertical progress. A leap, not just an incremental step.
And he emphasizes, doesn't he, that this isn't just about being clever or having technical skill.
No, it takes more than that.
It takes a certain kind of conviction, right? A certain kind of individual or team to step into that void and build something entirely new.
He famously said, and I think this really gets to the heart of what he values,
Let's hear it.
brilliant thinking is rare, but courage is in even shorter supply than genius.
Wow. Courage over genius.
It's that profound courage he talks about. The audacity to bet on your singular vision against, all the conventional wisdom.
That's what lets people step into the unknown and build something truly unprecedented.
And what's truly fascinating here is how this specific philosophy doesn't just inform his thinking, it fundamentally underpins his entire fortune.
How does that connection work?
Well, while the world's entrepreneurs are busy building just another social app or another e-commerce platform or another SaaS tool that optimizes some existing process.
Things that feel safe, maybe? Incremental.
Safer, definitely incremental. Thiel is out there funding companies that are fundamentally rewriting the rules of civilization itself.
That sounds big.
It is big. He's not interested in those small gains in established markets where margins are constantly squeezed by competition.
Right, the one-to-many space.
Exactly. He's interested in entirely new markets where the rules are still being defined, where the competitive landscape is basically non-existent.
Because he understands that's where the real value is created.
That's where true, defensible, non-competitive value is created. It's all about building foundational monopolies.
Okay, foundational monopolies, we'll come back to that. But first, if this is his core philosophy, where did this incredibly contrarian mindset even come from?
Yeah.
It's not just theory for him.
Oh, no, not at all. It was forged in fire. Personal experience.
Tell me about that.
Absolutely. The origin story for this 0 to 1 thinking is deeply rooted in his co-founding of PayPal back in 1998.
With Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, that whole crew. The PayPal Mafia.
That legendary group, yeah. Now, most people remember PayPal simply as, an online payment system, a digital wallet. Made it easier to send money.
Which it did.
Which it did. But that common understanding totally misses Thiel's core, audacious intention.
What was the real goal then?
PayPal wasn't built merely to digitize existing cash or just be a more convenient way to send money. His vision and the collective vision of that early team was far grander, far more disruptive.
Okay.
It was to create a new, decentralized currency for the internet.
Whoa, a new currency.
Yeah. It was designed really as a rebellion against the traditional banking system, a parallel financial infrastructure for the growing digital world that would bypass all the inefficiencies and gatekeepers of the old institutions.
That is definitely not just digitizing cash.
Not even close. That, he clearly saw, was a true 0 to 1 moment, creating a new form of money, a new financial paradigm, rather than just tweaking the old one.
And that experience must have solidified everything for him.
Totally. That experience and the incredible talent that came out of it, the PayPal Mafia, it cemented his belief in the power of a small, focused group of singular minds to build completely unprecedented things.
And that PayPal experience, that relentless drive to create something truly new, it leads directly to some of his most famous quotes, right? Maybe the most arrogant-sounding ones at first glance.
Yeah, like, by the time your idea is obvious to everyone, it's already too late.
Which makes sense if you're trying to be first.
And then, of course, the absolute mic drop, competition is for losers.
Okay. Hearing that cold, you might just think, wow, this guy.
Arrogant, Yeah, it sounds incredibly arrogant.
But it's not just bravado, is it? There's a much deeper strategic point he's making there.
There truly is, and it's a point that challenges pretty much every conventional business school lesson.
Unpack that for us. Competition is for losers.
If you really unpack it, the deeper meaning becomes crystal clear. If you are engaged in intense competition, you are, by definition, not innovating in the way Thiel defines innovation.
Because you're focused on the other guy.
You're constantly looking over your shoulder at what others are doing, trying to beat them at their game, or trying to differentiate yourself on tinier and tinier margins.
It's reactive, not creative.
Exactly. This isn't creation. It's a zero-sum game of just capturing existing demand. And if you're copying, even if you're doing it slightly better or cheaper, you're not leading. You're following.
So true leadership is creating that new space.
Thiel posits that true leadership, true value creation, comes from establishing a domain where you are the sole player precisely because you built that domain from scratch. Competition, in his view, just drives down profits, it commoditizes products, and it distracts everyone from true innovation.
Why fight for scraps when you can own the whole pie?
Why fight for scraps in a crowded market when you can own an entirely new one? That's the logic.
And this foundational belief, it leads him to what he considers the absolute bedrock question for any aspiring founder or really anyone looking to create something impactful.
The killer question.
Which is,
what's the one thing you believe that nobody else does?
That's a powerful question. It forces you to dig deep, doesn't it? Beyond what's trendy or expected or what the market research says right now.
It pushes you to articulate a unique, non-obvious truth. Something that feels like a secret only you know.
The secret.
Indeed. This is precisely where the 0 to 1 journey begins. It doesn't start in a crowded market where everyone's fighting for a piece of the existing pie.
It starts with that belief.
It starts with the immense courage to think dangerously different, to articulate a truth or a vision that to most people sounds absurd, impossible, or just plain wrong.
And having the conviction to pursue it.
Pursue that solitary belief, that secret, because that's where truly new frontiers are discovered. And ultimately, that's where a unique, defensible value is created. It's about finding that one niche where you don't compete because you created the whole category.
And this unique way of thinking, you can see how it would translate directly into a really unique and often, profoundly successful way of investing.
Absolutely. It dictates everything.
So it's clear Thiel thinks differently, but he also invests profoundly differently. I mean, while the rest of the VC world might be doing exhaustive due diligence, looking for market validation, calculating predictable risks, Thiel seems to be on a whole different wavelength.
Completely different frequency. Where others see immense risk, he often sees opportunity for monopoly.
And crucially, where others wait for proof, right? For established markets, proven demand.
He's willing to bet enormous sums on pure, unadulterated vision.
This contrarian clarity, as people call it, it's not just a hallmark, it's like the engine of his investment strategy.
It is the engine. Most investors try to minimize risk through diversification, backing companies in well-defined markets, following trends. Thiel does almost the opposite.
He seeks out risk.
He actively seeks out situations where conventional wisdom sees immense, even insurmountable risk. Why?
Because
Because he believes those are the very opportunities that, if they work, will yield monopolistic returns. The kind of returns that pay for dozens of losses.
the power law returns we hear about.
Exactly. He's not looking for incremental gains in a competitive space. He's looking for paradigm shifts that create entirely new landscapes, making the old ones obsolete. It's high stakes, definitely highly concentrated.
And there's no better example of this than the Facebook bet, right? Now legendary.
A classic example.
2004. Facebook was just a fledgling college project. Literally, a website for university kids.
And the prevailing wisdom back then, social networking was already saturated, dominated by Friendster, MySpace.
Seems crazy to think now.
Right. But Thiel, with that unique 0 to 1 lens, he wrote its very first check, a substantial $500,000 for 10.2% of the company.
$500,000 into a college website in a saturated market.
It's astonishing when you think about the prevailing view then. To almost everyone else, Facebook was just a toy, a fleeting trend for college kids, another MySpace waiting to fade away.
Investors saw a crowded field, lots of competition.
But Thiel's vision was totally different. He didn't just see a toy, he saw the nascent stages of a digital empire.
A mental shift.
A fundamental shift in how humans would connect and interact globally. He saw the potential for a new social fabric being woven online.
Based on real identity. Was that the secret?
That was a huge part of it, yeah. Prioritizing real-world identities and connections, unlike the anonymous predecessors. He saw the inevitability of it becoming the default digital identity for billions.
And the outcome, well, it speaks for itself. By the time Facebook went public in 2012.
That initial $500 case stake, worth over $1 billion.
$1 billion. This wasn't luck, like you said.
Definitely not luck. It was that contrarian clarity in action, seeing what others couldn't or just wouldn't see.
A testament to identifying a 0-to-1 opportunity before anyone else even got the category.
Absolutely. Peering into the future and seeing not just a good idea, but an inevitable one, even when it was totally obscured by the noise of existing competition. He got network effects and digital monopoly way before most people did.
And incredibly, in the very same year he backed Facebook, 2004, Thiel also co-founded another profoundly impactful company, one that really embodies his 0-to-1 approach. Palantir Technologies.
Oh, Palantir.
This wasn't some flashy consumer app. This was something far more foundational, maybe more impactful on global affairs even.
Palantir is a fascinating and, yeah, often controversial example of the 0-to-1 philosophy in action.
How so?
It's a data analytics firm that, right from its start in 2003, was designed to operate at the cutting edge of intelligence and security. Its goal wasn't just to build a better database or a standard analytics tool.
It was something bigger.
It was to create an entirely new platform, one that could aggregate, analyze, and make sense of massive, disparate data sets, intelligence reports, financial transactions, you name it, for critical national security analysis.
That sounds incredibly complex.
It was so advanced, so uniquely positioned for this kind of complex, sensitive data, that the CIA actually became one of its first clients.
Wow.
This wasn't about building a better spreadsheet. It was about building an entirely new way for governments and intelligence agencies to understand and respond to threats in the 21st century.
And its impact today is undeniable, even if it operates quietly behind the scenes a lot.
It's used extensively by the U.S. military, by NATO allies.
And it played a role in managing data during global pandemics, right?
Yeah.
Helping governments predict and act.
Exactly, helping them act before chaos strikes. It's a foundational piece of global infrastructure, quietly shaping defense and decision-making on a massive scale.
It's really no coincidence, then, that Thiel's venture firm, Founders Fund,
which now manages, what, $17 billion in assets as of this year?
Yeah, an astonishing $17 billion.
Right.
And it operates with this exact same philosophy. Their motto even says it all.
We wanted flying cars, instead we got 140 characters.
It's not just a clever tagline, is it?
No, it's deep. It's almost a mournful critique of Silicon Valley's priorities, really.
A warning against chasing hype, against settling for small improvements.
Exactly. A warning against chasing ephemeral hype, against settling for incremental social media updates or consumer apps when these foundational flying car-level breakthroughs are possible and, necessary.
It signifies a real disappointment.
A profound disappointment with what Thiel sees as Silicon Valley's tendency to focus on, well, trivial consumer apps and ad revenue over the really hard transformational problems, the fundamental challenges.
So Founders Fund backs companies tackling those.
Precisely. Thiel, through Founders Fund, doesn't just fund startups. He backs companies genuinely building the future. Companies addressing those deeply complex, often overlooked foundational challenges that can create entirely new industries.
And you can see his fingerprints everywhere.
All over nearly every significant tech wave of the last 2 decades, re-envisioning space travel with SpaceX.
Tackling something only governments used to do.
Right. Revolutionizing online payments with Stripe, building that elegant infrastructure for developers, groundbreaking neurotechnology with Neuralink.
Brain-computer interfaces.
Yeah.
Wild.
And even disrupting hospitality with Airbnb, monetizing unused assets. These were all 0-to-1 bets in their fields.
Carving out entirely new spaces.
Rather than competing in existing ones.
And he's definitely not done. In 2025, Founders Fund is aggressively doubling down on what many see as the AI arms race.
Pouring capital into companies like Anthropic, Cognition Labs, Scale AI.
Not because they're just trendy, though they are, but because they fit the Thiel playbook.
Exactly. They represent the next wave of 0-to-1 creation in a field he believes will profoundly rewire civilization.
And that playbook is consistently what? High risk.
High risk, high vision, high impact. He's not interested in finding the next Google by just iterating on search.
He wants the crazy idea.
He's interested in backing the idea that sounds absolutely crazy today, the one everyone else dismisses too ambitious, too difficult, impossible, but that he believes will be utterly inevitable tomorrow.
It's like a prophetic conviction.
A deep, almost prophetic conviction in certain tech trajectories, especially AI, which he sees as fundamental, civilization-altering. He aims to invest in the companies that will define the next era, not just participate in it.
If Peter Thiel has one defining superpower, it really feels like this almost uncanny ability to see tomorrow's power dynamics today.
It's like he has a crystal ball, yeah. But one that shows not just what tech will exist, but how it will fundamentally reshape everything: society, economics, global power.
He doesn't just predict, he invests to make it happen.
It's a truly remarkable trait, and we saw a pivotal example way back in 2010.
Okay, what happened then?
Long before machine learning was a household term, before most people outside very specific research labs even understood what AI really meant.
Yeah.
Thiel made what seemed like a quiet, maybe even obscure investment. He put $2.25 million into a small London-based startup called DeepMind.
DeepMind. Okay, I know that name now, but back then...
Back then, the world barely noticed. Just another tech investment. Most VCs would have seen it as super speculative, no clear path to making money.
But insiders knew better. People who understood the ambition.
They knew DeepMind wasn't just another company tweaking AI. It was, like you hinted, a direct bet on artificial general intelligence, AGI.
The kind of AI that can do any intellectual task a human can. Or better.
Exactly. Human-level cognitive abilities across the board. That's a totally different scale of ambition than, AI optimizing ads or recommending movies. It's about creating a new form of intelligence.
And the outcome of that bet.
Explosive, in retrospect. 2014, Google acquires DeepMind for an astounding $500 million.
Wow, that's over a 200x return in just 4 years.
Huge financial return. But that's only part of the story. Thiel's seed check basically became an exponential catalyst, not just for his portfolio, but for the whole field of AI.
Because DeepMind went on to do
AlphaGo defeated the WorldGo champion, something people thought was decades away, and AlphaFold, revolutionizing protein folding, opening up biology and drug discovery.
So those breakthroughs, fueled by that early vision,
directly sparked the modern AI race we're in right now, the LLMs, everything. And Peter Thiel, he wasn't just watching. He was building the playbook, actively shaping the trajectory of one of humanity's most transformative technologies.
So it's really no surprise that today, in 2025, his fingerprints aren't just on the history of AI, but all over the most disruptive AI labs shaping its future right now.
Definitely. Founders Fund is a major backer of some truly groundbreaking companies pushing the limits of AI, often in areas others might shy away from.
Why? Risk.
Ethics, perceived risk, ethical complexity. Yeah, we see their significant investments in Anthropic.
Creators of Claude, the OpenAI rival, known for focusing on AI safety.
Right, yet still delivering cutting-edge performance. Then there's Cognition Labs.
The makers of Devon, the world's first AI software engineer.
A fully autonomous AI writing and debugging its own code. That's a 0-to-1 moment in software development itself.
And Scale AI.
Critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Powering the U.S. military, providing the essential data pipelines for training these massive models. Foundational pillars.
These aren't just trendy names. They're building the scaffolding for the future of AI.
Often in mission-critical or national security contexts, too.
So, with all this investment, this relentless focus on AI, what is Thiel's ultimate vision for it? Is he betting on AI replacing humans? Skynet? Or is it something else?
His view is more nuanced, I think, and maybe more chillingly pragmatic than just human replacement.
Okay.
While he clearly gets the immense power and the risks of advanced AI, he's not betting on it just to replace humans. His vision seems to be for AI to fundamentally rewire civilization itself.
Rewire civilization. What does that mean?
Reshape everything. Geopolitics, economics, social structures, even the nature of truth and power. A complete re-architecture of how societies operate. And he wants to be funding the companies building that new architecture.
AI isn't just a tool for him, it's a new form of power.
Exactly.
That brings to mind another of his provocative quotes. The most important truths are the ones people don't want to talk about. And in 2025, the hard truth about AI, as he might see it, is becoming maybe clearer than people are comfortable with.
That truth is multifaceted, unavoidable. AI isn't just a powerful tool. It's rapidly emerging as a geopolitical weapon.
Giving nations strategic advantage in intelligence, cyber warfare, autonomous defense.
All of it. It's also an unprecedented economic engine, poised to automate huge amounts of labor, create new industries, redistribute wealth on a scale we've rarely seen.
It's a moral question too, right?
Critically, a profound moral and philosophical question, forcing us to grapple with agency, control, bias, even consciousness in ways we never have before.
And Thiel's approach is just confront these truths head on.
Pretty much. He sees what others fear, what makes them hesitate, what leads to calls for pauses or regulation, and while others pause to debate or fully understand the implications.
He invests and builds.
He invests and builds, doesn't wait for public approval or clear rules. Just like with PayPal, Facebook, Palantir, build the future before it even has a universally recognized name. Shape the conversation by creating the reality.
And this relentless drive to be first, to create something new and powerful. It ties directly into his pursuit of monopolies, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Which brings us to one of his most provocative, often misunderstood rules. Capitalism and competition are opposites.
Ah, yes. That one always gets a reaction.
It sounds like absolute heresy. I mean, isn't competition the lifeblood of capitalism, drives innovation, benefits consumers, market efficiency?
It absolutely does sound like heresy. In startups, business schools, economic textbooks, competition is gospel, lauded as the mechanism that makes markets fair and dynamic.
But in Thiel's world...
In Thiel's contrarian world, it's seen as a distraction, even a destructive trap.
How?
He argues that conventional capitalism, driven by fierce competition, ultimately pushes profits down towards zero. It commoditizes products. It forces companies to focus on tiny incremental improvements instead of radical innovation.
So his argument is to win big.
To truly win big, build lasting value, you shouldn't aim to be the best in a crowded race, fighting for a sliver of existing demand.
You should aim to be the only one running.
Be the only one running because you created an entirely new race. He calls this the power of monopoly.
Where a great business doesn't just make money.
It prints margins because it owns something so unique, so fundamental, that no one else can replicate it or effectively compete. It's about creating, not competing.
And we saw this blueprint with Palantir, which we talked about. Co-founded in 2003, not for Wall Street, not for consumers.
Built from the ground up for intelligence agencies, war zones, global crises, a category of clients and problems no one else is really tackling comprehensively.
And its secret to getting that monopoly position was its complexity, its criticality.
Precisely. Its unparalleled complexity, deep integration, strategic criticality. Palantir built a platform so sophisticated, so secure, so vital for these high-stakes, mission-critical uses.
Like tracking terrorists or managing pandemic supply chains.
Yeah, that it becomes nearly impossible for anyone else to replicate or for a client to switch away from.
The switching costs are astronomical.
Astronomically high. Once an agency or military integrates Palantir, the cost, the risk, the disruption of switching is just too much. That's not competition. That's sustained, defensible control over a market it basically created itself.
A classic example of creating your own category where you're indispensable.
Rather than just fighting for market share.
So how does this pursuit of monopoly translate into Founders Fund's investment strategy? Most VCs are chasing unicorns, right? Billion-dollar companies. Thiel's chasing something else.
Something far more concentrated. He's chasing what he calls power law returns.
Explain that.
It's a core idea in VC, but Thiel applies it with extreme discipline. The idea is that in a portfolio of early-stage investments, one truly exceptional monopolistic investment will pay back all the losses from dozens, even hundreds of failures, and still generate massive returns.
So he's not looking for a bunch of moderate successes.
No, or even just a few unicorns. He's looking for the one or two companies that completely reshape an industry and become a de facto insurmountable monopoly.
Which means high risk tolerance. Concentrating capital.
Exactly. Willingness to put a lot into a very small number of potentially world-changing bets.
And his reasoning is that true monopolies aren't obvious.
Right. They don't announce themselves with big PR campaigns or immediate hype. If they did, everyone would be chasing them.
So where do they come from?
They typically start as crazy ideas, ridiculed even. They often grow quietly in overlooked niches, solving problems others don't even see as problems, or problems that are just too hard for conventional thinking.
And by the time the world notices,
it's already too late. The monopoly position is established, the tech moat is dug deep, the network effects make them unassailable. He's looking for those hidden secrets about how the world works that, once revealed, create an inevitable dominant position.
This also comes through in his investment memos practice, right? while others write 20-page decks.
Detailed market analysis, competitive landscapes, financials.
Yep. Thiel simplifies it, cuts straight to the essence of 0 to 1.
He does. Cuts straight to the core by asking one intensely focused question of founders and his own team. What do we know that no one else does?
Not about market size or growth rates.
No. It forces everyone to articulate the unique insight, the contrarian truth, the secret about the world that forms the basis of their 0 to 1 creation.
That's how he finds these monopolies in disguise.
Companies that possess a unique, non-obvious truth that will eventually give them that unassailable position, creating their own category.
And once he finds them,
His strategy is clear. Back them early, often when others flinch from the risk and lack of validation. Double down on those investments. Show unwavering conviction even when the market is skeptical.
and only exit.
Only exit after the world is forced to play catch-up, after the monopoly status is undeniable, and the once crazy idea has become an obvious necessity.
So the grand vision for Thiel isn't about competing for scraps or outmaneuvering rivals.
No, it's about building the fundamental machine that makes the rules for an entirely new market, and then owning the blueprint for that machine.
It's a relentless pursuit of power and influence, which, understandably, has also led to its fair share of controversy.
Absolutely. You can't operate like this without attracting scrutiny. Peter Thiel is a figure who operates on incredibly long time frames, decades ahead, anticipating shifts others don't see.
But his legacy, right now in 2025, it's still very much being written.
And often in bold, profoundly controversial strokes. What really stands out is his consistent willingness to be misunderstood, even hated.
If it means being right first.
He seems almost to embrace public misunderstanding if it serves his long-term convictions, believing that if an idea isn't controversial, it's probably not truly original or impactful.
And this willingness to disrupt goes way beyond just tech and business. He's been a political disruptor.
Famously backing Donald Trump in 2016 and again in 2024.
Not a popular stance in Silicon Valley, which mostly leans left. Didn't win many mainstream fans either.
That's precisely the point, from his perspective. It wasn't about popular alignment or even conventional ideology. It was about the core belief that disruption doesn't just belong in tech, it belongs in politics too.
He sees political systems as stagnant, inefficient.
Resistant to necessary change. His support for unconventional anti-establishment figures aligns with his whole philosophy of challenging existing structures he thinks aren't working, even if that means embracing figures seen as outsiders or iconoclasts.
Effectiveness over correctness. Radical change over decorum.
Something like that. He values effectiveness and radical change over political correctness or conventional norms.
And his personal choices also reflect this worldview, this long-term calculation, moving his base from Silicon Valley to LA.
And notably, securing New Zealand citizenship.
Which many interpreted as creating an escape hatch, right, for the global elite, insulating himself from future instability.
That interpretation reflects a perception of his hyper-rational long-term planning, a sense he's always preparing for different futures, even ones others dismiss as unlikely, alarmist, or paranoid.
It underscores his proactive approach to securing his position financially, geographically, politically.
It ties into his philosophy of exit. The idea that if a system becomes too oppressive or dysfunctional, the ability to just leave and build anew is paramount, maintaining optionality in a world he sees as increasingly unpredictable.
Now, we do need to address a particularly sensitive point, one that has, in recent years, cast a bit of a shadow: Valar Ventures.
Okay. The fund Thiel co-founded.
Right. And in 2021, it notably invested in a company linked to Jeffrey Epstein's financial network.
That's correct. The sources we have indicate a specific investment from Valar. $40 million went into a company connected at the time to Epstein's financial network.
And that investment reportedly yielded over $170 million in return.
Highly profitable, financially speaking. Now, it's really important to clarify the nuance here, based on the sources. They state this connection was controversial, absolutely, but also illegal, no.
Okay. Controversial, but not illegal.
But it certainly added a shadow to Thiel's otherwise legendary track record because it publicly intertwined his name, even indirectly through a fund he co-founded,
Right.
with a highly controversial and widely condemned figure.
It highlights the complex, sometimes ethically murky territory of high-impact investing.
Where due diligence and public perception can create difficult associations, even if no direct wrongdoing by the investor is implied.
And because of all this, the contrarianism, the politics, the controversies, Thiel presents a really bifurcated public perception.
Definitely two sides. To his critics, he's seen as dangerous, maybe elitist, paranoid, power-hungry, someone seeking control, reshaping society and his image without consensus.
But the other side.
To his followers, and there are many in tech and investment circles, he's revered. A philosopher king of innovation, someone unafraid to break things that aren't working, who dares to challenge the status quo even if it's uncomfortable, to build a better, albeit maybe uncomfortable future.
This duality is central to understanding him. He polarizes.
Because he refuses to operate within conventional boundaries or conform to popular opinion, he measures himself by long-term accuracy, not public approval.
And in 2025, it's clear he isn't fading away. He's actually doubling down, accelerating his bets.
That's right. He continues to fund AI labs that are, as the sources put it, bypassing political correctness.
Suggesting a willingness to invest where others might see controversy or ethical issues. Prioritizing capabilities.
Seems like it. Prioritizing progress, maybe. He's also actively seeding defense tech startups, blurring the lines between private innovation and national power.
Believing private tech is key to geopolitical strength.
And that the private sector needs to lead on national security innovation. And through it all, he's still asking that same constant probing question that started it all.
What great company is no one building?
Exactly. For Thiel, legacy isn't about being loved or winning popularity contests. It's about being right, decades before the rest of the world catches up, and about fundamentally shaping the future.
So as we bring this deep dive into Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 mindset to a close, what we've really discovered is that he is far more than just a billionaire.
Much more.
He is, in many ways, a living blueprint for thinking radically differently in a world that, let's be honest, often feels addicted to imitation.
Addicted to incrementalism and addicted to competition.
That's the essence of it. His empire, from PayPal creating a new internet currency to Palantir's foundational government data analytics, his pivotal early bet on Facebook, his current deep dives into frontier AI.
None of it was built by following trends or playing by existing
It
rules.
was all built by consistently asking that one powerful, challenging question: what's missing from the world that only I can create?
That captures the core of 0 to 1. Not just doing something better than someone else, but doing what has literally never been done before, creating true, defensible value.
And for you, our listener, maybe there are some key lessons distilled from Thiel's journey, things you can carry forward, whether you're building a company, investing, or just trying to navigate this complex world.
Okay, let's list them out.
First, don't compete. Seriously, escape competition entirely. For Thiel, monopoly, not just market share, is the real endgame.
Own the category. Don't just fight for a slice. Think PayPal's new currency, Palantir's unique government analysis, not competing with banks or traditional software.
Second, invest where others hesitate. That moment when an idea feels too early, too weird, too risky to the average investor.
That's probably the exact moment it's just on time for a 0 to 1 thinker. Thiel's early Facebook bet, DeepMind before AI was mainstream, perfect examples.
Third, vision beats credentials every single time. Think about it. Most of Thiel's billion-dollar bets, like Facebook, started with someone nobody really believed in, or a project that seemed trivial.
It was the audacious vision, the unique secret about the future, not a fancy resume or market validation that caught his eye.
Fourth, be willing to be misunderstood, even attacked, even hated.
Yeah, this one's tough but crucial. Breakthrough ideas, by definition, challenge norms. That creates resistance, criticism, hostility.
Thiel's political stances, his controversial investments, he shows that unwavering commitment to his convictions, regardless of blowback.
Fifth, and this is a big one, build for the future, not the feed.
Yeah.
Thiel doesn't care about going viral, fleeting trends, social media metrics. His focus is totally on shaping the next century, building foundational tech and institutions that define tomorrow long after today's trends are forgotten.
He funds flying cars, not just astro tweets.
Exactly. In a world of endless noise, constant updates, fleeting trends, Peter Thiel is proof that quiet conviction, that singular belief in an unbuilt future, can ultimately be louder and far more impactful than any passing trend or public opinion.
He reminds us that true progress is often found off the beaten path.
By those courageous enough to build what doesn't exist yet.
So if you've absorbed this, if any part of this deep dive resonated with you, it's probably because you're not here for shortcuts.
Yeah.
You're here because something inside you wants to build, not just follow. Peter Thiel didn't wait for permission. He don't wait for trends to solidify. He acted on conviction, even when it felt insane, especially when it felt insane.
That's key.
So here's the question for you, the listener, the builder. What's your 0 to 1?
What's the one thing you believe deep down that nobody else does? That unique insight, that conviction that feels like your personal secret about the world.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished.
But it has to be yours. That one spark, that contrarian truth. It might just be the starting point of something truly unprecedented.
Something that defines your own 0 to 1. Think about that one spark.
I'll mull it over.
We'll be right here, breaking down the minds that shape the future, one idea at a time.